Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Om Apavitra Pavitrova Sarva Avastang Gatopiva Yat Smaret Pundarik Akshang Sabhaya Abhyantara Suchihi Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnana Anjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalang Pangung Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Vande Sri Gurung Dinataranam Yat Kripatamahang Vande Parama Ananda Madhavam Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Eva Sahishnuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalo Nasyeva 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 Gatir Anyata Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So last week we heard how after Balaram killed Romaharshan Sutta, he transferred the benediction that the sages of Naimisharanya had bestowed upon Romaharshan Sutta, and Balaram then took that benediction and placed it on the son of Romaharshan Sutta, who was known as Ugrashrava, or more commonly known as Sutta Goswami, who spoke to the sages of Naimisharanya the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we read in the very first canto. Then the Brahmanas recommended atonement for Balaram, just so that he would set the proper example, because it was quoted from the Bhagavad Gita that whatever a great man does, the common people follow. So the Brahmanas were concerned that, yes, Balaram, actually you did nothing wrong, but to set the proper example for others, you should do some kind of atonement. And they requested Balaram that he should kill the demon known as Bolvala, who would always come and disturb their sacrifices. And with the help of his two weapons, the plow and the club, Balaram proceeded to kill the Bolvala demon. And the Brahmanas, the sages of Naimisharanya, were very, very pleased. Then Balaram decided that he would continue his touring of the sacred places of India. So this next section is called Lord Balaram's Pilgrimage. After this incident of killing the Bolvala demon, Lord Balaram took permission from the Brahmanas assembled at Naimisharanya, and accompanied by some other Brahmanas, went to the bank of the river Kaushuki. After taking bath in this holy place, Balaram proceeded toward the river Sarayu, and he also visited the source of that river. Traveling on the bank of the Sarayu River, Balaram gradually reached Prayag, where there is a confluence of the three rivers, Ganges, Yamuna, and Saraswati. There also Balaram took bath, and then Balaram worshipped in all the local temples, yes, of the demigods, and as enjoined in the Vedic literature, offered oblations to the forefathers and sages. Balaram gradually reached the ashram of the sage Pulaha. Pulahasram is also known as Hari Kshetra, and from there Balaram went to the rivers Gandaki and Gomati. After this, Balaram took bath in the river Vipasha. Then Balaram gradually came to the bank of the Shona River, which is still running as one of the big rivers in the Bihar province. Balaram also took bath there and performed Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Balaram continued his travels and gradually came to the pilgrimage city of Gaya, where there is a celebrated Vishnu temple. According to the advice of his father Vasudeva, Balaram offered oblations to the forefathers in this Vishnu temple. Usually, one goes to Gaya in order to worship deceased forefathers. But although Lord Balaram's father and grandfather was still alive, it was on Vasudeva's order that Balaram carefully worshipped his forefathers at Gaya. However, although Balaram was in the immediate proximity of Jagannath Puri, Balaram did not go there, since Balaram wanted to avoid the embarrassment of having to worship himself among the forms of Krishna, Balabhadra, and Subhadra. Now, this is very, very interesting for me. So, two things. So, 5,000 years ago, they were worshiping in Jagannath Puri the deities of Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra. Very interesting. And as was mentioned here, he wanted to avoid the embarrassment of having to worship himself. From here, Balaram traveled to the delta of the Ganges, where the sacred river Ganges mixes with the Bay of Bengal. The sacred place is called Ganga-Sagara, and at the end of January every year, there is still a great assembly of saintly persons and pious men, just as there is an assembly of saintly persons in Prayag every year, known as the Magh Mela Fair. After finishing his bathing and ritualistic ceremonies at Ganga-Sagara, Lord Balaram proceeded towards the hill known as Mahendra Parvat, where Lord Balaram met Lord Parashuram, the incarnation of Krishna, and offered Parashuram respect by bowing down before him. So this is also significant because Parashuram, thousands of years prior, also met Lord Ramachandra. So this incarnation, Parashuram, has been living for a long, long time because Ram appeared in Treta Yuga and Balaram appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga. After this, Balaram turned towards southern India and visited the banks of the river Godavari. After taking bath in the river Godavari, and performing the necessary ritualistic ceremonies, Balaram gradually visited other rivers, such as the Vena, Pampa, and Bhimarati. On the bank of the river Bhimarati is the deity known as Swami Kartikeya. After visiting Kartikeya, Lord Balaram gradually proceeded to Shailapur, a pilgrimage city in the province of Maharashtra. Shailapur is one of the biggest districts in the Maharashtra province. Balaram then gradually proceeded towards Dravida Desh. Southern India is divided into 5 parts, which are known as Pancha Dravida. Northern India is also divided into 5 parts, known as Pancha Gauda. All the important acharyas of the modern age, namely Shankara Acharya, Ramanuja Acharya, Madhva Acharya, Vishnu Swami, and Nimbarka, advented themselves in these 5 Dravida provinces in South India. Lord Chaitanya, however, appeared in Bengal, which is part of the 5 Gauda Deshas. The most important place of pilgrimage in southern India, or Dravida, is Venkatachala, commonly known as Balaji. After visiting this place, Lord Balaram proceeded towards Vishnu Kanchi, and from there Balaram proceeded on the bank of the river Kaveri. While going to Vishnu Kanchi, Balaram visited Shiva Kanchi. Lord Balaram took bath in the river Kaveri. Then Balaram gradually reached Ranga Kshetra. So as I'm reading this, I am being reminded of my visit to South India back in 2008. And yes, I did visit this river Kaveri. There is a nice Gaudiya temple there that I visited. And I also visited the Balaji, and I also visited Ranga Kshetra. Prabhupada continues, the biggest Vishnu temple in the world is in Ranga Kshetra, and the Vishnu deity there is celebrated as Ranganath. And there is a similar temple of Ranganath in Vrindavan, although not as big as the temple in Ranga Kshetra. It is the biggest in Vrindavan. After visiting Ranga Kshetra, Lord Balaram gradually proceeded towards Madurai, commonly known as the Mathura of southern India. After visiting this place, Balaram gradually proceeded towards Setubanda, the place where Lord Ramachandra constructed the stone bridge from India to Lanka. In this particular holy place, Lord Balaram distributed 10,000 cows to the local Brahmana priests. It is the Vedic custom that when a rich visitor goes to any place of pilgrimage, one gives the local priests houses, cows, ornaments, and garments as gifts of charity. It is clear from the description of Srimad Bhagavatam that when Lord Balaram was visiting the different places of pilgrimage, Balaram properly followed the Vedic system. So after distributing cows at Setubanda, Lord Balaram proceeded towards the Kritamala and Tamraparni rivers. These 2 rivers are celebrated as sacred, and so Lord Balaram bathed in them both. Balaram then proceeded towards Malaya Hill. This Malaya Hill is very great, and it is said to be one of the 7 peaks known as the Malaya Hills. The great sage Agastya used to live there, and Lord Balaram visited him and offered respects by bowing down to the sage Agastya. After taking the sage's blessings, Lord Balaram, with Agastya's permission, proceeded towards the Indian Ocean at the point of the cape, which is known today as Cape Comorin. And there is a big temple of goddess Durga, who is known there as Kanyakumari. This temple of Kanyakumari was also visited by Lord Ramachandra, and therefore it is to be understood that this temple has been existing for millions of years. From there, Lord Balaram went on to visit the pilgrimage city known as Falguna Tirtha, which is on the shore of the Indian Ocean or the Southern Ocean. Falguna Tirtha is celebrated because Lord Vishnu, in his incarnation of Ananta, is lying there. From Falguni Tirtha, Lord Balaram went on to visit another pilgrimage spot known as Panchapsarasa. I think it's Pancha Apsarasa. There also, Balaram bathed according to the regulative principles and observed ritualistic ceremonies. This site is also celebrated as a shrine of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Balaram distributed 10,000 cows to the local Brahmana priests. From Cape Comorin, Lord Balaram turned towards Kerala. The country of Kerala is still existing in southern India under the name of South Kerala. And after visiting this place, Balaram came to Gokarna Tirtha, where Lord Shiva is constantly worshipped. Balaram then visited the temple of Arya Devi, which is completely surrounded by water. From that island, Balaram went on to a place known as Shuparaka. After this, Balaram bathed in the rivers known as Tapi, Payoshni, and Nirvindya. And then Balaram came to the forest known as Dandakaranya. This is the same Dandakaranya forest where Lord Ramachandra lived while in exile. Lord Balaram next came to the bank of the river Narmada, which is the biggest river in central India. And on the bank of this sacred Narmada is a pilgrimage spot known as Mahishmati Puri. After bathing there, according to regulative principles, Lord Balaram returned to Prabhasa Tirtha, where Balaram had begun his journey. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This next excerpt is called Kurukshetra. When Lord Balaram returned to Prabhasa Tirtha, Balaram heard from the Brahmanas that most of the Kshatriyas in the battle of Kurukshetra had all been killed. Balaram felt relieved to hear that the burden of the earth had now been reduced. For Lord Krishna and Balaram appeared on this earth in order to lessen the burden of military strength created by the ambitious Kshatriya kings. So this is the way of materialistic life. Not being satisfied with the absolute necessities of life, people ambitiously create extra demands, and their illegal desires are checked by the laws of nature or the laws of God, which appear as famine, war, pestilence, and similar catastrophes. Lord Balaram heard that although most of the Kshatriyas had been killed, the Kurus were still engaged in fighting. Therefore, Balaram returned to the battlefield just on the day that Bhimasena and Duryodhana were engaged in a personal duel. This battle between Bhima and Duryodhana had been enjoined by Lord Krishna and also set into motion by Krishna. As the well-wisher of both of them, Lord Balaram wanted them to stop, but they would not stop. So when Lord Balaram appeared on the scene, King Yudhishthir and his younger brothers, Nakula and Sahadev, as well as Lord Krishna and Arjuna, immediately offered Balaram their respectful obeisances. But they did not speak a word. The reason they were silent was that Lord Balaram was somehow affectionate towards Duryodhana, who had learned from Balaramaji the art of fighting with a club. When the fighting was going on, King Yudhishthir and others thought that Balaram might have come there to say something in favor of Duryodhana, and therefore they remained silent. Both Duryodhana and Bhimasena were very enthusiastic in fighting with clubs, and in the midst of a large audience, each was very skillfully trying to strike the other. While attempting to do so, they appeared to be dancing. But nonetheless, it was clear that both of them were very angry. Lord Balaram wanted to stop the fighting, and therefore he said, "My dear King Duryodhana and Bhimasena, I know that both of you are great fighters, and you are well known in the world as great heroes. But still, I think that Bhimasena is superior to Duryodhana in bodily strength. On the other hand, Duryodhana is superior in the art of fighting with the club. Now, taking this into consideration, my opinion is that neither of you is inferior to the other in fighting. Under the circumstances, there is very little chance that one of you will be defeated by the other. Therefore, I request you both not to waste your time fighting in this way. I wish you to stop this unnecessary fight." The good instruction given by Lord Balaram to Bhimasena and Duryodhana was intended for the equal benefit of both of them. But they were so enwrapped in anger against each other that they could only remember their long-lasting personal enmity. Each thought only of killing the other, and they did not give much importance to the instruction of Lord Balaram. Both of them became like madmen in remembering the strong accusations and ill behavior they had exchanged with one another after so many years of animosity towards each other. Thus, Lord Balaram, being able to understand the destiny awaiting both of them, was not eager to go further in the matter. Therefore, instead of staying, Balaram decided to return to the city of Dwaraka. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we will finish up this Balaram Leela that we have been studying the past few weeks with this final episode entitled Balaram Retires. When he returned to Dwaraka, Balaram was received with great jubilation by relatives and friends, headed by King Ugrasena and other elderly persons, who all came forward to welcome Balaram. After this, Balaram again went to the holy place of pilgrimage at Naimisharanya, and the sages, saintly persons, and brahmanas all received Balaram by standing up. They well understood that Lord Balaram, although a Kshatriya, was now retired from the fighting business. The brahmanas and sages, who were always for peace and tranquility, were very pleased at this. All of them embraced Balaram with great affection, and they induced Balaram to perform various kinds of sacrifices in that sacred spot of Naimisharanya. Actually, Lord Balaram had no business performing the sacrifices recommended for ordinary human beings. After all, Balaram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore Balaram himself is the enjoyer of all such sacrifices. As such, Balaram's exemplary action in performing sacrifices was only to give a lesson to the common man, to show how one should abide by the injunctions of the Vedas. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Balaram, then instructed the sages and saintly persons at Naimisharanya the following things. Number 1, he instructed them on the subject matter of the living entity's relationship with this cosmic manifestation. Number 2, Balaram instructed how one should regard this whole universe. And number 3, Balaram instructed how one should relate with the cosmos in order to achieve the highest goal of perfection. This supreme goal is the understanding that the whole cosmic manifestation rests upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also all-pervading, even within the minutest atom, by the function of his Paramatma feature. Lord Balaram then took his Avibrita bath, which is taken after finishing sacrificial performances. After taking bath, Balaram dressed himself in new silken garments and decorated himself with beautiful jewelry. Amidst his relatives and friends, Balaram appeared to be shining full like a moon amidst the luminaries in the sky. Lord Balaram is the personality of Godhead, Anantadev himself. Therefore, Balaram is beyond the scope of understanding by means of material mind, intelligence, or body. Balaram descended exactly like a human being and behaved in that way for his own purposes. we can only explain Balaram's activities as the Lord's own pastimes. No one can even estimate the extent of the unlimited demonstrations of Balaram's pastimes because Balaram is all-powerful. Lord Balaram is also the original Vishnu. Therefore, anyone remembering these pastimes of Lord Balaram in the morning and evening will certainly become a great devotee of the personality of Godhead, and thus one's life will be successful in all respects. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlada Klada Dayane Hiranya Kashi Purvakshaha Shilatankana Kalaye Ito Nrsinga Parato Nrsinho Yato Yato Yamitato Nrsingha Bahir Nrsringa Hridaye Nrsringo Nrsringham Ading Sharanang Prapadye Nrsringham Ading Sharanang Prapadye Nrsringham Adim Sharanang Prapadye Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahadi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Nrsinga Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadish Jaya Jagadish Jaya Jagadisha Hare Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Tat Sat